Are there moles inside the Trump administration? Interesting things keep happening. Also, what's going to happen in Gaza this week is Trump has said, hey, if the hostages are not all released, not just trickled out, not all released by noon this Saturday, there will be hell to pay. Welcome to Today in Prophecy, daily news in 15 minutes or less, news with a biblical perspective. Well, Xi, the president of China, says that China is building an economic fortress against U.S. pressure. As Trump turns up the heat on Beijing, China is trying to become more technologically self-sufficient, but its efforts have a significant cost. A day in China could easily start like this. Roll out of bed and swipe through WeChat messages on your Hui smartphone, hop into a BYD electric car and drive to the railroad station where a high-speed train from a state-run factory whisks you to your destination. Chinese-designed nuclear plants, solar farms, and wind turbines power the city's lights. China is racing to make itself less reliant on the outside world's products and technology, and with that, they are going to try to protect themselves against the things that the Trump administration is doing. And listen, China has a huge problem with their own economy already. Their demographics are very challenging, as it looks like they're already going into the negative numbers for how many people are going to be living in China because of their one-child policy that they have had for a number of years. But all of China's economy is just in a terrible position. And then you read an article like this coming out of the Wall Street Journal. It sounds like what China really has going on are giant 15-minute cities all over the place, or just 15-minute cities all over the place. And we know their social credit system keeps you from traveling as you want to travel, and everywhere you go, you are being tracked. So interesting to see. They're going to try and compete with the U.S. in their economy. China has big problems. But I'm going to show you something else. The United States, the Trump administration might be faced with some big problems on the inside, as now there are 2 ICE raids where the illegal alien criminals were tipped off before the raids happened. So what does Tom Homan have to say about this? He basically says, guess what? We know who they are. We know who it is on the inside that tipped them off. But listen to this.
Where are these leaks coming from?
Well, look, we think it's coming from inside. And we know the first leak of Aurora is under current investigation. We think we identified that person under investigation right now. The California leak, Secretary Noem, she's correct. Some of the information we're receiving tends to lead toward the FBI. But I talked to the Deputy Attorney General all this weekend. They've opened up a criminal investigation, and they have promised that not only this person lose their job and lose their pension, they're going to go to jail. They're going to criminally prosecute. So we're all over it. We got the DHS IG investigating the first one. I have a pretty good idea what happened. Can't share a lot because it's under investigation, but the IG's opened up a criminal investigation on the second one. We're sending a strong message. It's just not, giving the bad guys a heads up so they can escape apprehension. Right? We're arresting, giving, the Venezuela gang a heads up so we can't arrest them. You're putting officers' lives at risk. It's only a matter of time if we walk into a place where there's going to be a bad guy doesn't care. He's going to be sitting and wait for the officers to show up and ambush him. This is not a game. So DHS and DOJ are connected at hip to hold these people responsible in a criminal fashion.
Yeah, fascinating to watch that, as he even says, listen, they already know that one of the people that leaked the information, I think it's for the California raid, was with the FBI. So we're looking at this, but he says we're going after them. We have a pretty good idea of who they are. And listen, they need to be arrested. And even as that said there, they need to be arrested for treason. And so many things are happening. I mean, look at where all of the money that is now being exposed, what's been going on with all of this money. Unbelievable. The wickedness that has been taking place. And we are starting to see it. And there's all kinds of lawsuits that are being filed. Why? Because the powers that be, or used to be, or are attempting to still be, the deep state, they don't want you to see it. Why? Because there are payoffs. Remember this, Paul wrote to Timothy, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. When you love money, you'll go down to just about any depth to be able to give yourself more money. And it looks like that's exactly what's been going on. And then here it is within the FBI. you have something like this, people still tipping off the criminals, people still working for the Marxists. Unbelievable. I'm looking forward to them going to jail for treason. Well, let's move over to the Mideast. Hostage deal at an end. Hamas delays next release indefinitely, claiming Israeli ceasefire negotiations or violations, And check this out. Hamas official threatens October 7 was just a prelude for what is coming. So you look at these things and you're going, okay, Hamas says, guess what? There's been ceasefire violations by who? Hamas has broken every single ceasefire, just like Hezbollah has, just like all of Israel's enemies have in the past. Who do you think violated the ceasefire? And you look at the wicked things that Hamas has been doing. We've seen these hostages that have been released. Trump said this is just absolutely horrific. The condition that these hostages have been kept in. And then, we reported this earlier in the week. The Red Cross is just horrified that the rapists, the terrorists, the murderers that Israel is letting out of jail in exchange for just one hostage who has been abused. The Red Cross is just horrified that that Israel puts a wristband on the evil, wicked terrorists with a Bible verse on it. That is just horrific. The Red Cross doesn't say anything about how awful these people are. Doesn't say anything about the hostages. Unbelievable, the wickedness of that. But what does Trump say is coming? Well, watch this. Trump says come Saturday, you better look out because this is coming.
As far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
All hell is going to break out. You look at this and go, I'm telling you, we are in for quite a week. And by the way, we're going to be in Hawaii at a prophecy conference at Calvary Chapel, Pearl Harbor. That Billy Crone has put together. Billy will be there, Pastor Brent Holthouse, Ken Michael Mondo, and myself. Join us if you're in there, in the Pearl Harbor area of Oahu. Join us. It's going to be a great conference. But come Saturday, man, I'm telling you, we look at things that are shaping up. Netanyahu is saying, listen, it won't be like it was last time when we first came into Gaza. Israel did everything they could to restrain themselves from anybody being hurt that wasn't a terrorist. And you look at this, what's coming this weekend, and the horrific conditions that these hostages have been kept in. Absolutely awful, absolutely awful. Come Saturday, folks, it looks like things are about ready to change. Moving on, let's think of it this way, moving on from that particular story, let's see what Mike Huckabee has to say about this regarding Gaza. What he's going to say, you watch this, what he's going to say is, listen, it's not that Trump is thinking outside of the box. Trump has thrown the box away. Watch this.
The one thing we know is that Hamas is not going to be able to exist. That's just a done deal. It's sort of like saying Iran can't have a nuclear weapon and Hamas cannot continue to exist. They can never have anything to do with the governance of Gaza. A lot of people forget that Gaza was once a place inhabited by both Jews and Palestinians until 2005, when Ariel Sharon decided to give it all away. He did. They militarily marched 10,000 Jewish people out of Gaza, turned it into a complete Palestinian state, and the result we saw October the 7th. So there's something that has to be rethought. President Trump did something bold. He looked into the future and said, kind of a what if. We don't know exactly what might happen in Gaza, but here's what could have happened in Gaza. Gaza could have been Singapore. Instead, Hamas turned it into Haiti. And in fact, maybe worse, far worse than that. So let's hope that people will listen to President Trump. The only time we've had real significant peace in that region was the 4 years that Donald Trump was president. And I'm very optimistic that with his leadership, his bold and innovative thinking. He doesn't think like the other politicians and diplomats have thought, and thank God he doesn't, because we get results. You know, I heard somebody say he's thinking outside the box. That's ridiculous. He's not thinking outside the box. He throws the box away and says, let's start with a blank slate and see where this could go. That's leadership, and that's what we have with President Trump. And I'm personally optimistic that we're going to see something bold. I will use this term, Maria. I think we will see something of biblical proportion happen with his leadership in the Middle East.
Wow.
Listen to that. I think we will see something of biblical proportions happen. Listen, we live in a different world than we were just a few months ago. And we look at everything that is happening, and you got to wonder, what are these terrorists going to do? What's Iran going to do? Hamas, listen, they've been called out. Trying to mess around right now, messing around with the Biden administration, no problem. Messing around this time around, we live in a whole different world. Well, speaking of a different world, New York continues to change. Check this out. The Rare Foundation reports Islamic conquest in America. New York church converted into mosque as Muslims celebrate victory. The conversion of St. Anne's Church into a mosque is not just a real estate deal, it's a symbolic conquest that exposes the West's accelerating decline as Islam advances with unwavering determination while Christianity crumbles under complacency, weak leadership, and self-inflicted surrender. Absolutely, that's exactly what's happened. The lack of strong Christianity, pastors that will actually lead. Listen, I know some great ones, but we know the number is getting smaller and smaller all the time. Pastors are being exposed as being not about the Bible. They'll preach about anything just to make the people happy. They're complacent in the pulpit. They're weak leaders, just as this article says, and they are in a self-inflicted surrender. We just need to get along. Let's just get along with Islam. Take a look at what's been happening to Europe. In fact, I've done 2 reports on this just in the last 2 weeks. On the Tom Hughes report, you can watch it here on Wednesdays. 2 reports on what's going on in Europe because of the Islamic invasion. And guess what? You look at this in New York, you have a weak church and the devil gets in. That's what's happening. God bless you guys. Thank you for joining me. Be on the lookout for what's coming this Saturday. I'm telling you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. But I look at the Gaza area and do not think this is going to go well for Hamas. God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.